What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tyson's Nutrition Tips. It's not even called Tyson Nutrition Tips. Nutrition Talks with Tyson the Trainer. With me, Tyson the Trainer. Today, I've got another podcast for you that is going to be an informative one. I know last week you had the rant cast, but I'm like, you know what? I can't just keep speaking, going off my head all the time, and I've got to give you guys some good information. So today we're going to be talking about what is good enough for nutrition around your workout. So pre-workout, during your workout, and post-workout nutrition. Okay? Now, before I get into this, the first thing I want you to really think about here. Do you need to worry about this? Okay? If you are someone who is not eating consistently, when I say consistently, getting your fruits, your veggies, your protein in every meal, getting good meals in within the day, whether you're tracking or not tracking. If you are someone who's struggling to get enough protein in, if you're someone who's struggling to keep regularity within your day, if you're someone who's just not really focused on trying to, get the most out of your training, then don't really fucking stress about this episode, okay? Like, the good enough was what I'm going to cover here, is if you want to focus on it, all right? But let me tell you this right now. If you are not nailing the principles of overall calorie intake and intake and output based on what your goals are, whether you're tracking or not. If you're not consistently eating your protein, if you're not consistently sleeping well, then don't fucking focus on pre, post, and intra workout nutrition. Why? Because it matters so little on the grand scheme of things if you aren't doing the other shit. It's pointless. It's like, I don't know if you guys have seen the meme that I posted up, or these people posted up. It's the guy who's in the pool and he's got a water bottle, putting water over his face, but he's in a pool type of thing. And it's looking to optimize my diet when I can't even be consistent with my calories, or taking BCAAs as a supplement when I'm eating enough protein during the day. You don't need to do that. The guy could have just fucking dunked his head underwater, but he's fucking rinsing his face with a water bottle, and he's in a pool. So, don't focus on this shit if you're not nailing everything else, okay? But if you are being consistent with your food intake and your output, if you are consistent with your training more than anything, which is also important, if you're consistent with your food and you're getting enough protein in, then we can have this chat. So sit down, take some notes, have a laugh with me, be a fly on the wall, listen to me talking to myself for the next 45 minutes, or give or take. Cool? All right, so basically, the first thing we need to consider is what your goals are when it comes to pre, intra, and post-workout nutrition. If you are someone who's just a recreational lifter, and when I say recreational lifter, you just do the gym because you're like, yeah, well, I exercise because I do it for health. I want to look a little bit better. You don't take it too seriously, I guess you would say. It's not like consuming your day with your thoughts, or you're not putting all that extra effort into trying to do the best you can working out wise. And this isn't just in the gym. This is also just whether you recreationally cycle on the weekend or you play sports and stuff like that. If you do it just because, you're I want to do something healthy, this is something that I enjoy and it's just fun, then don't stress too much about this stuff. This is for people who want to get the most, who want to really get the, to exceed where they are now with their training to get better results. And again, that's not just in the gym, that's also outside of the gym with sports. It's actually way more practical and applied to people who aren't in the gym, to be honest with you, okay? Because people who work out with weights, you're not burning that fucking many calories. Your pre-post workout nutrition isn't going to be an absolute game changer compared to people who are doing spending longer times training and having higher heart rates and intensities. Okay, so again, just think about what are your intentions here with this. Why do you want to worry about this shit? Because if you think, doing this is going to give me extra muscle mass, but again, you're not doing the foundations, it's fucking not. If you think doing this is going to help me burn extra body fat, it's not, okay? It's not going to help you do any of these things. It's just going to help improve your workout performance. And if workout performance is something that is of value to you that you want to improve, then cool. But if not, don't fucking stress about it. For example, Angie wouldn't fucking give a shit about her pre-post workout nutrition, I'm like, babe, just get some protein after your workout. And if you get, because she works out first thing in the morning, I'm like, just have some caffeine and have some Powerade during your training. It's that simple, okay? If you're someone, I'll just tell you that right now, exactly what I tell her. So if you're someone who just recreationally exercises and it's first thing in the morning and you're not going to eat anything beforehand, have some caffeine, whether it be a coffee, a pre-workout, whatever it's going to be, and then drink some carbohydrates like some Powerade during your workout, and then have protein afterwards. That's all you need to worry about, okay? That's it, literally. You can turn off the podcast if you're someone who just wants to, you're recreational, you want to just make sure that you can have some good energy, especially if you're working out in the morning, turn it off. But for everyone else who's interested in this, let's keep going forwards. Okay? So let's have a look at your phases first. We got people who obviously are trying to maintain their weight and just want to be healthier. We have sports performance. We have people trying to lose weight. We have people trying to gain muscle. Okay? Or actually just increase their actual overall weight because their power to weight ratio may be important for them, or they may be trying to move up a weight class for a certain sport or something like that, or trying to gain some more muscle so they can actually improve their sport. So, weight to gain, I guess you would say. So we'll start with the dieting side of things first. If you were dieting, one thing you need to understand is that your workout performance isn't going to be as good when you are eating a regular amount of calories or when you are in a calorie surplus, okay? The reason for this is because you just have less nutrients in your body overall. And because you're constantly eating less than you burn, you are never going to be fully refilling your glycogen. Glycogen is just carbohydrates stored in the muscle and in the liver. Okay, we have a little bit in our liver, large majority in our muscles. That's where the carbohydrates are stored when we eat them. They don't get turned directly into fat like people think. They're stored in the muscle first and the liver. Okay, and so if you're dieting, you're not getting enough food in, it's never getting topped up. It's kind of like you always, like as the diet goes on, you get leaner and leaner. But it's kind of like the fuel, when you fill up the fuel tank, when the prices go up on fuel and you're like, oh fuck, I can only put in 80%. Or I can only put in like, let's say you have an 80 litre tank, you're like, oh, I can only put like 60 litres in today because it's going to be fucking expensive. Kind of the same thing when it comes to muscle glycogen being replenished and you're working out all the time and you're in a calorie deficit. You're just never going to have full muscle glycogen, which means your workouts aren't always going to feel as amazing. And that's just naturally what it is with the calorie deficit. Some people feel fucking awesome. Like if you have a high amount of body fat, sorry, I should reiterate that. If you're someone who's getting leaner and leaner and you have less and less body fat, that's when your workouts start turning to shit. If you're someone who has a high amount of body fat and you're just using body fat as like, I don't want to say a fuel source. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're using fat to be able to be burnt off in that deficit, like your body's getting rid of the body fat, so you are actually going to be able to replenish muscle glycogen. It's like I've had a lot of clients who are heavier. When they diet, they actually train better, they have more energy, they feel better, and it's just because their muscle glycogen isn't being depleted because they have more fat stores on their body basically. So that's a good thing. So with that, when you are training and you're watching your calories overall, you don't need to worry about intra-workout nutrition, okay? Because that's just a calorie consumption that's going to suck. Like if I tell you, hey, go drink Powerade during your workout because you need the carbs, so you're going to spend, let's say you're going to spend 120 to 160 calories or 240 calories, like so basically from 120 to 240 calories on your intra workout because I'm fucking like, yeah mate, you want to optimize your training, you want to get all those carbohydrates in. You don't need to do that. So instead, if you want to drink anything during your workout, drink water, or drink some sugar-free cordial, drink some sugar-free Powerade. There you go. Or sugar-free Monster, whatever it is. You can have whatever you want, but you don't need to have calories intra-workout, okay? Now, pre-workout, whatever your goal is, fat loss, muscle gain, whatever it's going to be, you want to have caffeine before you work out, okay? So caffeine is going to be a good thing to focus on. If you are in a calorie deficit again, you probably want to watch where your caffeine intake comes from. So black coffee is going to have 0 calories. A coffee with a little bit of milk isn't going to be much of an issue. Sugar-free Red Bull, Monster, all that type of shit. Or you could have, I'm forgetting about something here. You can have no-dose. You can have pre-workouts, okay? Now, pre-workout supplement, I've talked about this before. The only benefit from a pre-workout supplement for any of you is going to be the caffeine side of things. Nothing else in that pre-workout supplement is fucking worth the money. So if you can buy just caffeine powder on its own, I would recommend that, although caffeine powder does taste like shit. If you want to buy caffeine or a pre-workout and you have the money to spend and you want to have it and you like the fruity taste they have or whatever the other tastes are, then go for it. But don't spend the money on a pre-workout because you think it's going to do something extra for you that caffeine isn't going to do, because it's not, okay? Just so you know that. So we want to have that about 45 minutes before you work out, okay? This is good enough. 45 minutes to an hour before you work out, you have caffeine. Okay, you're in a dieting phase, remember. So ideally, we're trying to reduce our calories. This is also if you're going to be working out in the morning. If you're going to be working out after 4 p.m., I would say no fucking caffeine. You're eating food during the day, you should have energy. You don't have energy to go into your workout, well then, that's going to be a bit of a tough one because I don't want you pumping caffeine to sacrifice sleep, basically. Okay? And then after you work out, you just want to get some protein in, ideally within 90 minutes. So that might be protein from a protein shake. It might be a meal when you get home. You do not need a protein shake immediately after your workout. If you're going to be driving home, then having dinner, that's absolutely fine. Protein matters. Like you want to have protein closer to your workout, the further away you've had food. So let's say again, you woke up in the morning, you're going straight to the gym. Well, then you're going to want to have protein pretty close after you work out if you can. So having a protein shake would be ideal, or eating within 60 to 90 minutes. If you've trained in the afternoon, or you're training in the afternoon/evening, and you've had a meal 1 to 3 hours beforehand, as long as you're eating within the next 90 minutes to 2 hours, you're going to be fine, because you've already got food in your body. Protein's already been broken down from the meals beforehand. Carbohydrates already been broken down beforehand. So you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to make it home and not go catabolic and fucking die. Don't stress. You're not going to make it home and be like, oh shit, gains were wasted. Nah, fucking lost my workout. Like, man, fuck. I remember I used to think so bad. Like, if I didn't get my protein shake post-workout, I've just wasted my workout. Like, imagine that. Imagine you didn't eat within a 30 or 60 minute window and the workout was just a waste. Holy fuck. Like, what a short change that would be for our, just for us in general. Like, how many wasted workouts I would have had and been like, oh my God, like, oh, I could have made 3 years worth of gains if I fucking ate within 30 to 60 minutes. So thankfully, that's not an issue, okay? And it's not like after the 90 minutes or the, whatever it is, it like cuts off and the workout's wasted. You just don't get as much of a benefit, okay? So this is why I'm saying, if you've woken up in the morning, you've had your caffeine, 45 to 60 minutes pre-workout, you're drinking whatever the fuck you want to drink during your workout. We're watching calories here because you were trying to diet. If you get a protein shake in or a meal within 90 minutes after working out, ideally the closer the better, you're going to be sweet, okay? What happens if you wait more than 90 minutes? Well, then it's just going to slowly be less and less impactful from your to get the results that's not right, to get the results. What am I trying to say here? You're going to get, let's say you can get 100% if you eat within 90 minutes, okay? Within 60 to 90 minutes. But then like after the 90 minutes, you might only get 80% benefits from that workout, or maybe 60, 50. Like it drops over time the longer you leave it, okay? Just because we need food to recover. So again, just try and get it in afterwards. And the same thing, if it's any other time during the day, because you've eaten food, your body is still breaking down that food. Like we say, oh, try and have carbs pre-workout, 60 minutes beforehand, quick acting carbs. This is for a specific time, which we'll be covering soon. But if you've had a fucking meal 2 hours beforehand and it was chicken, rice, and veggies, guess what? Your body's still breaking down chicken, rice, and veggies 4 hours later. Just so you know that, okay? It's not like that's gone, your body's just used it all. It's still being broken down. It takes time for food to break down in the body. A gut in transit, like it goes from the gut and then it goes into the large intestine and the small intestine. It takes a while to travel all the way through, being broken down and moving. This is why you probably shit once a day, whether it be first thing in the morning or whatever it is. But think about how many times you're eating. Think about how much food you're eating and you're shitting once a day. It's taking time to be broken down in the body, okay? Now, here's a fun thing. You start to eat more food, you start to gain weight, you're going to be going to the bathroom more, just because there's more food in transit. But guess what? That means you're never going to be catabolic in a gaining phase. So good enough pre-workout, post-workout for dieting. Caffeine pre-workout, 45 to 60 minutes beforehand. Try and get a meal in within 90 to 120 minutes post-workout. That's all you need to know. Intra-workout, have something sugar-free. You are sorted. Good enough, okay? Now let's talk about maintenance. Trying to just be all overall healthy, and your goal is we'll talk about maintenance and kind of performance together, all right? Because obviously gaining will definitely impact performance too. But maintaining your weight, you just want to make sure you're like, all right, sweet, I'm happy with where I'm at. Now I've got something else to focus on. I want to start focusing on my nutrition around my workout. Ideally, you want to be having about 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates pre-workout, about an hour before you work out. So I always like to say have caffeine and carbohydrates together, okay? That's good enough. Does it have to be exactly 40 grams or 60 grams? No. Can it be 30 grams? Can it be 40? Can it be 50? It doesn't fucking matter. Just try and have some carbohydrates beforehand. Why do we want to have carbohydrates beforehand if we have the calories for it? Carbohydrates that are simple carbohydrates. So when we say simple, it's easily broken down in the body. When you guys hear about white rice, high glycemic, white potatoes, things like that. These things are broken down easily in the body and converted to energy very quickly. So even though we have carbohydrates stored in our muscle and we have carbohydrates stored in our liver, if we eat carbohydrates and they're quickly broken down, they go into the bloodstream immediately and they can be used for immediate fuel. So it's a little bit faster for the body to access that energy than to break down muscle glycogen or liver glycogen. Okay, so it's just like, we're giving the body an immediate fuel source versus having to kind of go and searching for a fuel source, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, hey, save your time. We've got food right here. Just have this, right? That's it. It's like, you're waiting for a bank. You want to go deposit money. There's a big line all the way for the bank teller, for the person. What are they called? Are they called a bank teller? Just call them a bank teller. There's a big line there. All right, everyone's lining up, trying to slowly give them the money. And you're like, oh, it's going to take a while. And then you look and you're like, oh, there's an ATM right here. Here, have my money. Boom, ATM. Okay, immediate, basically. The same thing. Immediate energy from simple carbohydrates. So having that, again, this is a morning workout, I should say, sorry. In the morning workout, we usually want to have quick carbohydrates, pre-workout with caffeine. So when we have a quick source of carbohydrates, it's something like cereal would be a good option. You could have crumpets, you could have a bagel, you could have a banana or a half banana, you could have a full sugar Powerade, you could have skim milk in your coffee, you could have dried fruit, you could have lollies, you could have white rice if you fucking wanted to. Anything that's just like a white grain ideally, or like, a simple sugar is what we're trying to think of here. And you don't have to have that on its own, but we want to try and reduce the fat intake on that. So crumpets with honey, bagel with banana with honey, simple lollies. Or you could have protein too. So protein and carbs to have together is absolutely fine, but we want to kind of limit the fat intake. The reason we want to limit fat is just because fat slows down digestion. And also if we're adding like a fatty protein with that, so like a protein source, so like let's say you're having salmon on rice crackers, smoked salmon and rice crackers, because there's protein with fats in it and also carbohydrates, it's going to slow down that digestion. So we want to keep fats away if we're going to have quick carbohydrates pre-workout within 45 to 60 minutes. All right. Now here's something you can do. If you wake up, you're not hungry, you can't fucking think about eating anything, you have your caffeine and then drink your Powerade during your workout. That's simple carbohydrates right there. You can just sip on your Powerade during your workout and you're going to be getting carbohydrate source from your Intra and you're going to be fine. Okay? That's good enough, right? So the same thing we apply here, that's in the morning. Again, pre-workout, 45 to 60 minutes, caffeine or caffeine and carbohydrates. I'm going to give you, instead of saying 40 to 60, 20 to 60 grams. If you want to have more, because you have calories, go for it. During your workout, if you haven't eaten anything beforehand, or you're training more than an hour long, that is not a weight training session, you can use an intra workout. Again, going from Powerade or carbohydrates, or if you haven't eaten anything beforehand, you can just have Powerade. If you're just doing weight training and it's within 90 minutes, you don't need anything fucking intra workout. You're not depleting yourself that much doing weight training. Like, again, I want to help reiterate this. Let's say you have 20 sets of weight training. Like, you have 6 exercises, let's say, and you have 3 sets of each exercise. That's 18 sets. And then you do 2 sets of abs, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. You have 20 sets, okay? Each set takes you roughly less than a minute. So total workout time is less than 25 minutes, technically. Let's say 28 minutes out of the hour and a half you're there. You don't need intra fucking workout carbohydrates if you've had pre-workout carbohydrates, okay? Like, unless you got the calories and you just want to easily have them, go for it, but you don't need to. If you are doing something that's an endurance event or an endurance sport and you're continuously moving, then you're going to be burning more fuel and you're going to want that fuel after an hour of working out, okay? So again, someone who's done weight training, they do a set, they sit around, they fuck around, you might walk around during your sets, you're not burning that many calories, okay? You've done that for an hour and a half versus someone who's been cycling for the last hour and a half, someone who's been jogging for the last hour and a half, someone who's been rowing for the last hour and a half, someone who's been, it's what am I trying to think of here? It's a sport training night. Tuesday, it's from 6:30 till 8 p.m. They got you fucking running laps, they got you doing all these things. You need the intra-workout carbohydrates because you are constantly moving. All right, a cyclist doing 90 minutes of cycling is going to burn a fuckload more calories than someone doing technically 30 minutes of work in an actual workout that lasts for 90 minutes. All right, so Don't get confused here, okay? And again, if you are someone, this goes to the performance side of things too, if you are someone who is doing a more active sport where you're continuously moving, then after that hour mark, you're going to want to have carbohydrates. You're going to want to have about 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, okay? You can train your stomach to have more, but start on the lower end, about 40 grams, and then try and increase that to roughly 60 grams. Again, this can come from Powerade, it can come from those gels that you can get, it can come from a little bit of lollies based on how your stomach's going to handle it. I always find Powerade being a very easy source to do, or the gels. Some people aren't going to be able to handle the gels as much, so don't try and smash it all in one go. Take your time. Like a good rule of thumb is for every 15 minutes of exercise after the hour mark, you try and have 15 grams of carbohydrates. So you might sip a little bit of the gel 15 minutes in, half an hour in, a bit more of the gel, 45 minutes in, a bit more of the gel, and that second hour mark, you've finished the gel, okay? I had this guy ask me the other day, he's like, hey mate, can you give me some advice? Like, yeah, sure. He's like, I'm a cyclist. I'm like, yeah. He goes, on the weekend, we're doing like 3 to 4 hour rides. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. He's like, I just can't seem to be able to push myself after the like 2 hour mark. I just feel fucking gassed. I was like, all right. I was like, so what are you having? Tell me, what do you have during your cycling? He's like, oh, I just drink water. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I just drink water for the time and I just feel like I'm bunking out. And I was like, yeah, mate, like you're fucking using so much energy. You need gels and you need Powerade and you just need carbohydrates. So I told him to go try some gels. He got 2 caffeine gel ones and then 2 regular gel ones. He said he's beat his time every fucking week because he now has carbohydrates. And I'm like, amazing. You know, this is why nutrition fucking matters for performance. All right. So again, if you are someone who is doing the longer endurance stuff, or again, just doing more movement during that time, like me on the assault bike for an hour, I don't have carbohydrates on the assault bike. But when I go and do boxing, because performance matters to me, and because I'm like a maintenance / trying to gain, I have my Powerade during boxing because my boxing is 90-minute sessions, and boxing is more intense. The more intense we work out, the more carbohydrates you burn, okay? But before I get ahead of myself, let me just take it back here to talking about maintenance. So I've told you guys, good enough, 20 to 60 grams pre-workout. You don't need an intra unless you haven't had any carbohydrates pre-workout. You can have an intra. And in saying that, again, that's for the morning, but also, before I finish, after your workout, get some protein in. Again, same rule applies. Try and get some protein in. Do you need carbohydrates? Well, if you can have some carbohydrates because you don't mind about having some extra carbohydrates, it's better to have carbohydrates with protein versus having carbohydrates alone. Versus having protein alone. So if you can have a bit of carbohydrates with your protein within 90 to 120 minutes, do it. If you can't and you just want to get a protein shake in, that's fine too, okay? Like good enough is get protein. Great is get carbohydrates and protein. Cool? Done. In the afternoon, same rule applies. If it's after, like later in the afternoon, no fucking caffeine past 4 p.m. that's going to ruin your sleep. You don't need pre-workout carbohydrates. You can use them if you want. Like if you had a meal 3 hours beforehand and you're still full, don't try and shovel pre-workout carbohydrates in. If you had a meal 3 or 2 hours beforehand, you're kind of hungry, you want to have something on the way to the gym, you can have quick-acting carbohydrates. No dramas there, okay? Or again, you're still kind of full. During your workout, you're like, I want something nice to sip on. I'm going to have a Powerade or whatever it's going to be. That's fine. Same rule applies. Have either pre or intra. It's up to you. It becomes less important because you've got food in your stomach overall. And then after you work out, within 90 minutes. Good enough. Cool. Now for gaining, same rules apply basically for trying to gain muscle. Because you have the extra calories, try and buy small carbohydrates around pre and post workout. Like now you should be able to get some carbohydrates in post workout for gains. If we're looking for optimal here, okay? Like between maintenance and gaining, there's not a lot. You just have the extra calories, so it's like have the calories during your workout. If you can. Like for me, I'll give you guys an idea what I do with my boxing because it lasts quite long. I don't have any calories pre-workout because it's early in the morning. I have my coffee. I then take a Powerade with me, and then I'm sipping on my Powerade just every time I need to hydrate throughout that, okay? It's as simple as that. On my weight training sessions at the moment, I have intra-workout carbohydrates because I just need the extra calories to be able to eat. I'm on 4,700 calories a day. I just have to fucking get food in my stomach. That comes from coconut water that I drink throughout my workout because that's hydration side of things, all right? Now, so we've covered that for the good enough side of things. We've covered that for your deficit, your maintenance, your gaining, because it's not a huge difference. With the sports performance side of things, we've talked, the same rules going to apply. So carbohydrates pre-workout. During your workout, like I said, after that hour mark, you want to make sure that you are consistently trying to get caffeine in. Trying to get carbohydrates in, roughly about 60 grams if you can. Every 15 minutes, try and have 15 grams of carbohydrates. Post-workout, the same thing. We want to try and have carbs and protein post-workout. This is all for performance-wise. Going into the performance things a little bit more on that side of things. If you are someone who's focused more on performance, you should be tracking your heart rate. So you can see where your heart rate is going, basically. I mean, simple enough, right? But when you track your heart rate, you can see where the intensity level is. And when you see where your intensity level is, this is going to determine whether you need to be having more carbohydrates or not, all right? When I do boxing, my heart rate gets up to the 175, 180 mark. Like, I am fucking being pushed into my red line. Because of that, because my intensity is higher, I'm using more glycogen. I'm basically using nearly all glycogen or all carbohydrates as my fuel source during that, because like it hits 160 and it just stays there for the next usually about 45 to 80 minutes, give or take, just like kind of going up in between red zone and high heart rate zone. So with that, I'm having Powerade because I fucking need the carbohydrates. I'm depleting my muscles of glycogen. My arms are getting ruined, so they need the carbohydrates during my training. And guess what? I fucking notice it, because when I don't have carbohydrates, I'm feeling gassed. When I do, I've still got that energy to keep pushing forward. It's not like, oh, I'm fucking so much energy from carbs, but I can just keep pushing that little bit more because I'm giving my body that constant energy source, right? Same thing as you. If you're doing your lighter cardio, you know, if you're looking at your heart rate and it's in the low zones, like zone 2, you don't need that much, or if any, carbohydrates, to be honest, because you're basically using fat as a fuel source, okay? Now, don't get confused here. Using fat as a fuel source does not mean burning more body fat. It just means the fat that you've eaten from the food is being used as a fuel source first, okay? If you're in a deficit, you're going to be using body fat regardless. Okay, but what I'm trying to say here is fat is being used because it takes, it's a slower, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's a slower burn, basically. Fat is a slower burn, okay? So if you're doing lower intensity cardio, you're not going to need carbohydrates unless you're after the 90-minute mark, okay? After the 90-minute, again, you're going to need that little bit of extra energy. You still want to have some carbohydrates. If you're doing more, like zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, basically for most people, when it goes over 150 beats per minute, you're going to be using more carbohydrates. The higher you go, the more carbs you're going to be using, the less fat. It's like a percentage ratio, basically. So if you're pushing those, you know, those really hard, intense sessions, and they're going for longer than 60 minutes, you're going to want to fucking have some carbohydrates. Or even if performance is your main focus, and if the sessions are less than 60 minutes, but you know you're really driving that work hard and weight loss isn't your goal, fuel yourself with carbohydrates during that, okay? Again, gels, Powerade, whatever it's going to be. Because for me, calories, I don't give a fuck about calories. I just need to keep the performance up. So carbohydrates are basically being sucked down whenever I'm doing boxing. When I'm doing my 45 minutes on the assault bike, it's fucking zone 2 work. I don't need any carbohydrates. I just need water. And this is how we can tell. So the harder the intensity is, the more you're going to need the carbohydrates. And this is where it's fucking funny with people who go to who train with weights, even like bodybuilders, like, oh yeah, bro, I fucking push it hard in the weight training session. Like, mate, how many calories do you think you're fucking burning? Because you're not doing much. You do a set of 10, you have a fucking rest, you carry some plates on and off, you know, to put it on, to load it up, you fucking leave the plates on there, you lazy bastard, when you should be putting them away. Like, fuck me dead, how much energy does that require to put the fucking weights away? You're doing half reps and shit like that, you're not burning a whole lot of calories, you know? Like my gym session, I have 6 exercises. Some of them are only 2 sets. Like, it's just a hard set. Just because it's a hard set doesn't mean I'm burning a fuck load more calories, just because the weight's heavier. So we got to kind of, you know, I don't need all this extra energy during a workout. And like, you know, it's shit to say, but it's fucking true. Like, you don't work that hard in the gym. It requires mental effort to show up and do what you need to do, but you're not burning a fuck ton of calories, all right? CrossFit, you're burning more calories in CrossFit and F45 and the stuff that's consistently making you move and do different shit. In the weight training room, you're doing fuck all for the most part, okay? Like, it's a really good thing for you just to start timing yourself, all right? So every time you do a set, press the timer, do the set, press the timer. You'll be like, oh, that was 45 seconds, okay? Now you have a 2-minute rest, all right? Now you go again. Time it, 45 seconds, cool. Third one, 48 seconds, all right, sweet. You do that during the whole workout. You're gonna look at your work time versus the time you spend in the gym, and it's gonna make you fucking feel depressed. You'll be like, oh my God, I only worked out for 32 minutes. And I was in the gym for an hour and a half. Yeah, that's what it is. You don't burn extra calories from training with weights, like as in after weight training session. You're not burning all these extra calories. And that's why people who are like, oh, I just want to start losing weight, I start hitting the gym. That's why you don't lose weight. But funnily enough, people are like, I just started running every day. Yeah, you start running, you're going to start burning some fucking calories. You start cycling every day for an hour and a half a day, you're going to burn some serious calories. Now remember, cardio, I know I'm going to something different here. Don't get stuck in this whole cardio for fat loss, but you just burn a fuckload more calories doing any other exercise that's constantly making you move apart from weight training. And not walking. Let's take, like, walking's not going to burn a fuck ton of extra calories. You're not like, oh, I went for an hour walk, I burned 600 calories. You didn't. All right? But that's basically all you guys need to know about pre, post, and during nutrition. So I hope I covered that all. I hope it all made sense. This is just a good enough focus. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know and ask on Instagram. And as always, look, if you found this helpful, if you enjoy my podcast, if you like all the shit that I try and share for free, I would love for you guys to please share it so I can reach more people. So just click the share button, tag me on Instagram so I can see that you enjoyed it. And yeah, I just really appreciate it. Until next time, my friends, I'll speak to you then.